Hi, I'm Tracy Wheeler, Senior Vice President here at Visions Federal Credit Union, overseeing all the member experience. This is our first seminar on women and wealth here at Visions Federal Credit Union, so welcome all of you here. A little bit of background, I've been at Visions 33 years, started here as a teller and got my financial freedom through working at Visions Federal Credit Union. A story that I think back to is my mother, who is now 83 years old and been married 65 years. She started at IBM 40 years ago, and she did not have her own checking account. She did not have her own savings account. Everything was joint with my father. And through Visions Federal Credit Union, she was able to establish her financial freedom by coming in and talking to people here at Visions Credit Union about how to save, what's a checking account, why you should have a credit card for emergencies, all of those things. I have seen not just my mother, but small business owners, women, coming to Visions Federal Credit Union and asking us, how do I start? What do I do? What's important? I hope my mom's story helps engage you in our Women in Wealth seminars for years to come.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the Women and Wealth seminar brought to you by Visions Investment Services. I'm so glad that you've made the decision to be a part of this valuable session here today. My name is Jenna Rosenberg. I'm the Vice President and Chief Governance and Strategy Officer at Visions Federal Credit Union. As part of my role, I get to oversee our diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. I know we talk a lot about diversity, equity, and inclusion, or we hear it in the news. Some people consider it a buzzword. For me, I consider it a critically important part of the dialogue that we have as employers, employees, society, and people. We should all be doing everything we can to create an equal playing field for everyone, whether it's creating employment opportunities for people of all abilities, or providing opportunities like this seminar today so that males and females can have an equal playing field when it comes to managing your finances and growing your wealth. You all deserve to be in control of and feeling positive about your money and your wealth. I'm really glad that Visions Investment Services has created this opportunity. I'm thrilled to endorse it on behalf of Visions Federal Credit Union, and I hope that you get a ton out of today's session.
Thanks, Tracy and Jenna, for your comments as we begin our evening seminar. I'm Marcy Depew, financial consultant with Visions Investment Services, and I'm your host for this evening. Today I have with me Krista Perry, financial consultant, Katie Cunin, registered rep, and Christina Kavanaugh, our operations manager. Diane Elkin is joining us virtually from New Jersey. And thank you all for attending our first Visions Investment Services Women and Wealth seminar. Our goal is to create a safe and positive environment for all to learn and ask questions about your financial future. Whether it's with investing or financial services, this program is designed for women in any stage of life. Our hope is to continue with these series of seminars and workshops to educate, empower, and help women. I'd now like to introduce Tracy D'Angelo with Bright House Financial, who will be presenting our seminar today. Plan to be prepared for your financial future. Tracy, sending it over to you.
Good evening, everybody. I hope you're having a nice evening. I just wanted to start out by thanking you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here to see this seminar, Plan to be prepared for your financial future. And seeing as we're taking time out of your personal time, why don't we go ahead and start the seminar. Women today, we are a force to be reckoned with. If you take a look at our demographics, we now own 12.3 million of firms responsible for generating over $2 trillion in revenue. What an impact to today's economy. We also control over half of the private assets in the United States. And I'm sure none of us here are surprised by this, but we are also responsible for 80% of all the purchases. I know in my household, when we're making critical decisions, whether it's something for my husband, something for me, something for the children, we always consult with each other, but generally speaking, I usually have the last say. So when we see that we are responsible for the purchases, that drives our economy even further. We're also getting information from the Department of Higher Education that women are earning 57% of all the bachelor degrees out there, 60% of the master's degree, and 52% of all the doctoral degrees that are given. So if you think about that, we have come a long way. And it's very important for us to think about ourselves now and make sure that we're prepared for our financial future. Women in all seasons, whether you are at the height of your career or you're a stay-at-home mom, which by the way, I tested during COVID, not a fun job. Whether you are a baby boomer, a millennial, a Gen Xer, whether you are single, married, divorced, widowed, our financial future is dependent on us putting together a plan, because we are going to face strategic challenges in our future. Different life transitions bring all types of different financial decisions. It is important that during those decisions, we make those decisions with intention. And it might also be important to have some help along with it. Some of those changes that we have in life are jobs, marriage, retirement, divorce, or death. A financial professional can help us with retirement accounts, with discussing financial goals and setting estate planning needs for either a new couple or a divorced couple. Looking at retirement and figuring out what exactly are our expectations, what age, what's the lifestyle we expect to live, what's the Social Security and how will that impact our retirement. They'll help us organize our retirement benefits, both from Social Security and from current employers and even from previous employers. And in reference to death and divorce, they can help us consolidate our information, do title changes on accounts, and help us put together a plan, whether it's short-term or long-term. So with that said, I'm sure it's no surprise to everybody here on this call that women will face different challenges. Doesn't matter what the magic 8 ball says, there are a lot of things that are going to come our way, and we need to be prepared for it. So we're going to talk about the financial challenges that face us women, setting goals, organizing our finances, and prepare for the unknowns. As the quote says, good fortune is what happens when opportunity meets with planning. I like to think that putting together a good plan helps us get to a better financial future. No surprise here, right? We are all living longer. And since generally speaking, most women outlive men, women are living longer. The statistics that we are seeing, the average 65-year-old male can expect to live to about 85, and the average 65-year-old woman can expect to live to about 87. Now, there are some more interesting statistics around that, because 85 and 87 don't seem too super old. But think about this. 1 out of every 4 women in the United States at 65 will live to the age of 90. 1 out of every 10 will live to the age of 95. Now, I want you to think for a second about your own family. And if you have any relatives that have attained the age of 90 or older, that means you have longevity in your bloodline. Due to living older and retirement being a larger span of time, average retirees can start retiring somewhere around 62. Life expectancy bringing you to about 87. That's a pretty long retirement to plan for. Couple that with people that are living to 90 and 95, we may be looking at planning for about 30 years in retirement. And as women, we have some challenges that we have to address. Number one, we earn less and have a lower retirement income than most men. We spend more time out of the workforce caring for family members. We typically spend more on medical care. We are more likely to enter into a nursing home, and nursing homes are really expensive. And to couple that, some sobering statistics, because we're moms, because we're women, 84% of the baby boomer women out there are still supporting their adult children, still helping the next generation to become successful. According to the Financial Advisor magazine, there are over 11 million widows in the United States. And the sad thing is, on average, most of those women became a widow their first time at age 59. So that basically tells us that we are going to be in control of our own assets the older we get, and we need to be prepared for that. When we talk about women in the workforce, how is our experience different? How have we been treated differently historically? So if you take a look at a man and a woman entering the workforce, having the same relative education, same profession chosen, and about the same time or same age getting into the workforce, they make relatively the same amount of money. But as time goes on, there are gaps that get greater and greater. Some of those gaps are in response to us leaving the workforce to either have children or take care of elderly family members. But those gaps contribute to our retirement dollars at the end. When we're looking at retirement and having gaps of work or non-work, we see that also impacts our Social Security, not just our Social Security, but it also will impact our retirement assets. So if you take a look, women spending more time out of the workforce, about 2 out of 3 caregivers are women. And that impacts the dollar, that impacts the wallet. Total lost wages and Social Security benefits on average of about $350,000. So the average woman can expect to be out of the workforce for around 12 years. That does, at the end of the day, impact what our financial plan is and how do we get there. We're also less likely to participate in pension plans. And I see that statistic, it seems pretty sobering. 46% of the women participate in retirement plans. This may be a higher percentage than we expect due to the fact that most newer companies do not necessarily offer pension plans right now. We're seeing that pension plans not necessarily be the retirement plan of choice for newer companies. So we're seeing a lower election rate to participate in a pension plan. We also may see women entering the workforce, and when they get back into the workforce, they may be taking a part-time position versus a full-time position. And generally speaking, pensions are not normally offered to part-time positions. But this will also impact your ability to retire and or the plan. And where does the money come from? So now we've talked a little bit about retirement. Let's really think about what is retirement, what do we expect out of it, and how do we plan for it? Women's lower work earnings lead to lower Social Security benefits in retirement. So on average, just as we said before, either getting into the workforce late or taking time off will lower our overall Social Security benefits. On average, you need about 40 calendar quarters, which is almost 10 years of Social Security contributions. And if you retire before you have that full 40 years, you may have some zeros, some goose eggs up on the board, and that will average down your numbers. But we're seeing on average, men are retiring at 65 with about $18,375, and women are retiring around 65 with about $14,270. So it's about $4,000 in discrepancy or difference. Let's take a look at some more statistics. Women tend to have lower retirement income. If we're getting into the workforce a little bit later, we may be getting to that discretionary income level where we can spend money without worrying about our essentials a little bit later in life. So we might not be putting away as much. So when you look at an average man, he's retiring with the ability to drive about $27,000 in retirement income per year. And then a woman at 65, it's about 16,000. But there are more options for us. We can drive more investments. We can drive more returns. We just have to have a good plan to put in place. One of the other pitfalls is that we experience higher medical costs than men. And I think that that's pretty simple to figure out. If we live longer, we're going to have more medical issues. More medical issues will create more need for healthcare, which will cost us more money. We will also see the need probably for a nursing home or having to be prepared for choosing some type of facility that we can get help at as we get older. As I said before, we are more likely to enter a nursing home. If you take a look at the demographics of most people in a nursing home, you're looking at about 70% are women and about 30% are men. The average person to enter a retirement home is about 80 years old. So that makes about sense. If the average life expectancy of a male is about 85 and women live 87, 90, 95, we can expect that number. That kind of makes a lot of sense. So it becomes even more important that we put together a plan and we know what our wishes are and where we want to go and start looking at what our options are. And I would say that that probably takes place somewhere in your mid to late 70s. Part of putting together a plan is organizing your finances and knowing where you stand now and knowing how or what your plan is to get to the end game. So when we talk about setting goals and organizing our finances, this is the fun part about putting together a plan. This is where all of those challenges, although they are not necessarily set in stone and there's something that we're going to experience, but this is where we get to dream. This is where we get to ponder and we think about what do we want our retirement to look like? And this is where you can put together a really specific plan. Now, keep in mind, many of my counterparts like to talk about setting goals using the word SMART, putting together SMART goals. So be specific, be measurable, make sure the goals are attainable, realistic, and timely. So some of the questions that we need to consider is, what is your goal? Do you want to work till you're 62? Do you want to work till you're 65? Do you want to own your own business and work as long as you can? What is your goal? How long will it take you? Well, I am at point A right now, and I need to be at point Z in 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, whatever that timeline is, and know what that timeline is. What are those goals and how do they impact that timeline? What is important? Is it important that I get to retire? I apologize, guys, I didn't say this before, but I live in Connecticut. So is it important that I retire to a very expensive state with a lot of taxes to stay close to my family? Or do I want to retire and go someplace down south where it might be a little less expensive? Do I want to stay in my home? Do I want to go to a facility? So some of these things we have to kind of hash out and figure out what's important. And then we have to find out, well, what will it cost? What is the cost of that? What if I do sell my home here in Connecticut and I decide that I want to move to Charlotte or I want to move to Florida? What if I want to move to Aruba? What's the cost? And how do I get there other than an airplane? So that's the setting goals and being specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. Now we really want to think about today and the future. Think about what you have for savings and assets. Think about what are your debts and liabilities. Are those savings and assets meant for retirement? Are they meant for something else? Do you have children that you're still putting through college? Do you have a wedding to plan for, either for yourself or for a child? The debts and liabilities that you have now, are they things that you will carry into retirement? Is it a mortgage? Do you want a new car? Do you own a boat? So you have to think about what your savings and assets, your debts and liabilities, and how they were going to evolve over time. And then we need to think about what's your future income status like for retirement. What does your retirement look like, and where is the money going to come for that? Is it going to be Social Securities, private investments, 401k, 403bs? Are you fortunate enough to have a pension plan? We'll start to look at those and put those down on paper. We're going to look at how much income do you need now? How much can you save out of that income that you need now? And how much will you need in retirement? We'll look at your expenses. Look at what you have for essential expenses and discretionary. So the essential is your electricity, your heat, your food, your mortgage. It may even be your car, depending on where you live. Of course, in upstate New York and probably down here in Connecticut, a car is essential. And then there's the discretionary. Do I golf once a week? Do I want to get my nails done? Do I want my hair to be done? Do I want to get my car washed once a week and have somebody wax it? Though the discretionary things that we spend money on. Do we need new clothes? Are we, what type of profession are we in? Do we need to wear suits? So that's where we start to look at our expenses. What do they look like now? What will they look like in retirement? And the most important thing is as we go through this journey and we think about today and we think about our future, this will give you the confidence to put together a plan. And if you take a look, the quote says, confidence and courage come through preparation and practice. So the more we prepare, the more we know where we're going and how we're going to get there, the better we will be at the end of the journey. And I had mentioned this afternoon's seminar. It's funny, I remember when we were younger taking a trip, my father would go to AAA and he would get a trip tip. I don't know if anybody remembers these things, but they were a booklet. And you flip the page. So if you started out in Connecticut and jumped on 90, you got up to Massachusetts, you stayed on 90, you get over to New York, you stayed on 87, you went from 87 to 90, but you'd flip the book and it basically told you where you were going. And if you decided to defer from where you were going, if you were going to take a stop, if you opened it up, there was another map inside of the local area. So putting together a plan shouldn't be scary. It shouldn't force you to do something that you don't want to do and make it not fun. It should give you the opportunity to know where you're going from point A to point Z, give you the option to revisit it along the way to see if maybe you want to stop off someplace. Maybe you want to visit the Berkshires. Maybe on your way to Buffalo, you want to stop and see the canal in Rochester. It gives you the opportunity to check in and look at your plan and make sure that it still fits what your needs are. So that's thinking about today and the future. There's also a workbook that Bright House has put together, and I apologize that we were not able to send it out to you all before the seminar. Getting everybody's emails before was a little bit daunting. So what we have done is we've provided the workbook to Visions Investment Services so that you have access to it. So please, I believe at the end of the seminar, we're going to have a slide up that gives you the contact information. Please feel free to connect with them and get your workbook either through the front desk or making an appointment with one of the financial professionals. But in that workbook, we'll not only talk about the challenges and have you put down some numbers and ideas of what you think your retirement's going to be. There are going to be a couple of other things that we mentioned in the workbook. Some of the basics like giving to others, managing newly acquired wealth, whether you've acquired it through the passing of a spouse or a parent. Investing, how are we currently investing? Did the pandemic and the dip in the market in March impact how are you currently invested across the market? Taking care of your family. You know, if you were like me, I'm a little bit of an older mom. I had my first child at 38 and my second at 42. God kind of surprised me. I thought we weren't going to have children. And just as I was booking a 2-week trip to Egypt, my neighbor at the time founded the oldest living written language in Egypt. He's at Yale as a professor and had invited my husband and I along on a dig. And when I went to the doctor and said, I need to be inoculated, I'm going to be traveling, I had already booked the tickets. And he said, is there a possibility you could be pregnant? And I said, well, no, not unless God's giving me a super funny joke. And he sent me for a test. And sure enough, at 38, I had my first child, and 42, I had my second. So there's a good chance that taking care of my family may go a little bit later into or keep me working a little bit longer in my working years. I probably will not retire until 65, and that's kind of painful. It also will go over record keeping and storing your financial documents, how to keep track of those, make sure that there's someplace easy for you to access. If God forbid something ever happens and there's a change to your plan, somebody passes away unexpectedly, one of the few things that we could definitely help you, not one of the few, but one of the important things that we can help you with is always updating beneficiaries. But the quicker and the easier it is for you to get to those records, the better off we are. So the nice thing about this workbook is it keeps it all in one spot. We talk about preparing for the unknown. So we've talked about the challenges, we've talked about planning. Now let's talk a little bit about the unknowns that we might encounter. We all know life happens. I'm not sure if any of you have ever seen the bib that says spit happens. Well, it happens, and it happens frequently. And usually if it happens, we're probably not prepared for it. And if we're prepared for it, thank God. So life happens. We want to make sure in this workbook, you know who you expect or who you want to help you in an unexpected situation. So you have your emergency contacts, you know who they are, you have it stated. We want to know if you have, not we, but it'll be planning for you. You want to know if you have a plan for those emergencies. What is the plan? Do you have money? Do you have names? Is there backup? So you have that information all in one spot. What if you live longer than expected? Well, hooray, right? I don't know anybody who wants to go to the grave quicker. This is awesome. If we live longer than expected, what is our plan? What do we do? We also want to look at who are your family and friends, and are they prepared to help you if you become disabled or die unexpectedly? I will tell you a sad story. My dad died very well. I don't want to say unexpectedly. The sickness was unexpected, but my dad died at 64 years old, and none of us were prepared. We did not know his wishes. There were three women sitting, three daughters and my stepmother, all sitting in a room trying to figure out what he would have wanted being in the situation that he was. And I will tell you, as I'm sure you know, it was really hard for all three of us to come to a consensus. So make sure that whoever you leave in charge, that they know what your wishes are financially, health-wise, personally, so that they're not playing that guessing game. Remember, by failing to prepare, you prepare to fail. So if you can get all that information together, that really helps with the life happens. And at the very end, we've got a checklist. What is our checklist? Do you know somebody who you would consider is your advisor? Who are your advisors in your life? Is it a financial advisor? Is it a personal advisor? I myself find that I make really crazy decisions. So in reference to decorating, things like that, I have my sister. I automatically send a picture to her and I either get a thumbs up or a thumbs down. And my taste is a little bit wilder than hers, but she's like my advisor in reference to what would I put in my house. I myself, even though I work in the financial industry, I have a financial advisor. I actually have two. I have one that works with me on my investments and another one that works with me in reference to my insurance. Since I am the breadwinner in my family, my poor husband is the stay-at-home dad. He is stuck at home with the children, which is a win for me. I love my children, but I also love working. And I have to make sure that I have enough life insurance if something should happen to me while I'm traveling, that he and my children are well taken care of. So I have two advisors. So who are your advisors and what do they advise you on? What is important? Saving and investing automatically. This is really key. A lot of my friends will ask me, how do you save? And I tell them I don't. I'm actually really bad at saving. I'm super bad at saving non-retirement dollars. So you know what I've done instead of trying to save my non-retirement dollars? I put more in my retirement account. Automatic saving is probably the best thing for me because it comes out of my check. I don't see it. It's saved, it's invested, and it's making money. If you are like me and you're bad at saving, automatic saving or automatic investing is awesome because it happens automatically and you don't have to think, well, do I have it this month? Do I not have it? I plan for it every single month. This is what comes out. And that definitely helps, especially if you've got time before you're retiring. You also want to ensure that your income lasts as long as you do. Don't assume you will die young. Longevity is on our side. The modern medical miracles that we see happening day in and day out just increase our longevity. So make sure you have a plan for that. Plan to live with dignity. What is your plan? If you can no longer live at home, where would you want to be? I know this sounds kind of morbid, but through the journey of my dad passing away, my sisters and I went from one nursing home to the next to actually look at them and to see who treated their retirees or their the people that lived at the nursing homes with dignity and with respect. Don't be caught off guard. I will tell you that we met with a couple of planners and they said that planning where you will live if something happens just in case doesn't hurt. If you take a look around, you're in your 60s, 65, 70, look at the nursing homes, check them out just in case, God forbid, something happens and you need to be someplace, and just make sure you let your advisors know. Help protect and direct your loved ones. Make sure they know what you want. Make sure they know what your wishes are. And make sure that they are considering your plan in their plans. And remember, it takes as much energy to wish as it does to plan. Take some of the hard stuff off your plate. Use the workbook, put a plan in place. And I like this slide and I don't like this slide. It says products that may help you. So there are products that are mentioned on this slide, but I will say the first bullet point, 401k, 403b, IRAs, those are actually types of retirement accounts. They are not actual products. A 401k, a 403b, an IRA, which is a traditional IRA, traditional investment retirement account, Roth account, SEPs, Simples. These are accounts that you save retirement assets in and they grow tax deferred. They can be funded by mutual funds, stocks, bonds, annuities. So as you can see, annuities guarantee lifetime income. Then we talk about disability insurance. So if something were to happen to you and you're still alive, thank God. What if you need a little extra help paying for the bills? That's the disability insurance. And then life insurance. Life insurance is really something that we look at because we want to pass money to our heirs. And that is probably the most tax efficient way to do. So those are products and thoughts and accounts that you can use to help with retirement. Yet again, something you want to discuss with a financial professional just to see what fits your specific needs. And in summary, first of all, I want to thank you for your time. But to summarize, look at your financial future with confidence. Even though there is some headwind for us, we have weathered so many storms as a demographic, and we will weather this. Know your financial challenges as a woman, set your goals, organize your finances, and prepare for the unknown, and plan for an awesome retirement. Thank you. Back to you, Marcy.
Thank you so much, Tracy, for this insightful and very important information. As you have questions, please reach out to us. We'd love to schedule an appointment with one of our financial consultants. The contact information will be listed on the screen. And please be on the lookout for our next seminar. Our hope is that our next event will be held live. Thank you all and have a great day.